Hey guys, I'm going to talk about my screen capture application and how I made it and stuff. And so basically, I decided to write this because screen capture applications or screenshot applications are interesting programs. They are like the go-to program for people who have just learned the fundamentals of C# or whatever programming language they write in. They're very interesting programs. And with .NET, it's very easy to write these applications, even if they're very useful. And so this is somewhat useful right now. I'm going to keep it on my home page for a while. When it becomes more useful, I will release it on SourceForge. And basically, it's influenced by Fastone Capture, which is, in my opinion, the best capture application, and it's paid. So the first thing that I noticed about Fastone Capture is its icons are too small. There's no reason to have icons this small. When the program opens up, the user does a task for like 5 seconds or something, and then they close the program. You can have however big, it doesn't matter. So I decided I was going to make my icons bigger. That's the only thing I really dislike about Fastone Capture. For sure. And basically, I didn't include minimize because there was just no reason to minimize the application. When the user's done with these screenshot apps, they just close them. And so basically it's built to open up, be readily usable, and then closed quickly. So basically I'm trying to keep things simple and abstracting like I always do, but still configurable to some extent. Okay, so when I first made this application, I was programmatically drawing all of these graphics here. That's why they're so simple. Well, they were initially articulated to be simple in nature, but that's why I programmatically drawn them, and also because I wanted to apply color themes to the application, but I wasn't really thinking. I was like, I want to do color themes, and then eventually I was like, this is not going to be open for that long, and I want to brand it to Able Opus, which is the name I have for my website and my programming team, which is just me at the time. And you want to brand your apps so that people are really like, oh, this app is from that Able Opus place website team. And I really like the green. It's not as soft as blue on the eyes, but it's like second softest in my opinion. Not talking specifically by the color spectrum and how fast certain particles enter your eye. I just think that this green here is pretty soft looking, and with the gray on the back, it looks nice. Anyhow, basically I decided that I'm going to have tool hinting or tool tipping in the title here, so that if the user doesn't exactly know what the buttons do by the graphics, they can simply just look up 30 pixels and see exactly what it does. So these were programmatically drawn, but then I decided to export them as just bitmaps on file so that I don't have as much code everywhere. And as well, there are some other things, the check mark, and I know that other graphics that I make are going to require to be done in Photoshop. These just happen to be simple. Anyhow, everything's bitmaps except for this one here. This is loaded up as a resource just from this full screen image, and then I draw an X in the center of it along with how many screens are attached to your system. So in my case, I have one. So if I do capture all screens, it just captures one screen. Okay, and I haven't tested this in a multi-screen environment, but it will be easily adapted to that because just the way I've written it. So I don't know if I can do, I think I could do region capture. No. Okay, so part of the problem with this application is it doesn't seem to function properly when Camtasia Studio is running. So in that way, in that manner, I think that there's something wrong with my mouse hook logic. I probably should have my mouse hooks on a separate thread, and I've been trying to find documentation on how I can properly do this. I'm also reading about thread safety because my knowledge on thread safety is quite slim. So I'm probably going to just show you. No, I can't show you anything right now. I'm going to switch to no. Anyhow, you're going to have to see for yourself, just because it doesn't work properly with the recorder. But basically, capture region works in a way that a magnifying glass appears in the top, the containing screen of this application, and it shows in one of the corners of the screen. And as soon as your region part of the region goes over one of the magnifying glass, the magnifying glass, it moves to a different corner so that it's not in the way, but it's still there, so you can see it. And I'm using the rectangle intersects with method, or I was, and that was very expensive for some reason. So I have to run it along a timer. I'm checking to see if the two forms intersect every half a second on a timer now, because it was very expensive. It was causing my mouse to lag out. I can't do expensive things with the way the mouse hooks are set up right now. So here it is. I'm checking to see if the region capture intersects with the magnifying glass. If it does, then move it. And basically, it's how it is. Also, I brought my window capture library into the project because I needed to change it up quite a bit and debug it and stuff. And right now I'm working on a command utility so that you can write batch files and whatnot to interface with this program here. So in opposed to opening up the GUI, you'll be able to take screenshot applications of certain screens and the foreground window and some other stuff just by passing in commands to the executable. It will perform the operations, save the output file to a specified directory, and then close without opening GUI, except for the backdrop form and maybe some other stuff. Other than that, no GUI. So here is the mouse hook class. This is you basically hook up to it like you would with control. I want to put this on its own thread. It works pretty well. So I got my forms under their own directory here. I don't really concern myself with namespaces. I don't really care what's under what namespace in a project this small, and considering that there's no libraries except for the window capture, it's not really important. Just I have them under this folder here so that I can navigate through or find files more efficiently in the Solution Explorer. I have a sound player here to play the rollover sounds, as well I have a screen capture sound. And those sounds are created by me recording stuff with my Turtle Beach, as well editing the recordings in Audacity. So the screenshot sound, that is from a pen top clicking, and the rollover effect is, I don't know what that is. I forgot how I did that. But basically I like to design my own sounds, just because it makes your app more yours, even though you're using like a ridiculous amount of framework code when you're writing your app. Okay, so the problem with the problem I came across with the rollover sounds is that if the sound was too short, no matter what I did with the sound player would not play the sound. So I had, this sound was initially about a half a second long or less, and then I had to extend it with silence so that I can actually play. It was very odd. Okay, so when you take a screenshot using this application, basically I expand a save file dialog to the entire screen. I'm not sure if I'm checking to see which screen the main form is in or not. And then you can just hit X down here to can't, discard, or check to accept. Right now the enter button does not accept, but I will change that. So I can hit accept, save it as bitmap, portable network graphics, graphics interchange, or I don't know what that is. That's JPEG. It's like joint photographic some ethnic group. I don't know. But yeah, you can save it as those different formats. I find that the .NET framework file typing, the way it formats the image and saves it to file, is not quite refined. It's not perfect, but it'll have to do for now. So I don't know what. Oh yeah, I always have. Well, I don't always have this, but this is nice to have in your settings or in an info window. I think I'll just have the settings in the info window combined. Maybe I can have like a generic name that I don't really know of, because there's only settings, about, info, preferences. I don't know how I would combine settings and info together so that the user knows that there's going to be settings and some other stuff in here, like a link to your product documentation. I'd rather not have like a separate button for information, because the user would never go there. But if you have them combined, then the user's like, oh, there's other stuff in here that I can click on. I should probably click on that. Oh yeah, and so the backdrop, that's displayed behind the multiple window captures, and you'd have to really fiddle around with it yourself to see exactly how the window capture works. Basically, you hold down the control key while you're selecting windows. It will allow you to select multiple windows to capture, and then I wrote a union method for the rectangle because the initial union method was insufficient. Basically, this rectangle, it just combines rectangles together in a nice way, and it takes a screenshot of all the windows with the smallest possible rectangle. It's pretty clever. And right here, this is the desktop paint time. So the longer the paint time, the lower the perceived performance, but you're more likely to have the desktop not painting lately. Like, it's hard to explain, but you should give your desktop at least 200 milliseconds to paint before taking the actual screen capture. So I sleep the thread. It's a common thing with screen capturing. With my system, I could probably do one. And it will work just fine. We could test that theory. Yeah. But in a slower computer, this form will hide itself in code, but the screen won't have enough time to paint, and the form will still be here by the time the capture is taking place, and this form will be captured along with other stuff if there's other elements in the image. So that's why you want to give your desktop time to paint. So of course, I'm giving the option to use the backdrop or just capture whatever's behind the windows. And what I did was I actually sorted with this program here with window capture. You have to get all of the windows that the mouse is over, or get all the forms or windows that are behind the current mouse location, find the uppermost one. And I wrote logic using Windows APIs to sort the windows to find the one on the front, even though the method that I used to retrieve the windows actually had the windows organized by ZBuffer. So I basically spent like an hour writing this very scrappy method to sort windows when they're already sorted. Okay, and some other challenges I came across with the program is region capture. With region capture, you want to be able to. I'm gonna have to close this. This is not really doing so well. I have no control over my mouse right now because probably because I don't have the mouse hook on its own thread. I'm just going to press control. It's like Shift F5. I'm going to give Visual Studio Focus, Shift F5. There we go. Basically, what was I saying? The challenge. So the challenges I came across were the region capture, where you want to capture a region, but you also want the user to be able to inverse the rectangle. So if they click on here somewhere and drag down here, and they decide that they're doing it the wrong way, you want to give them the ability to inverse the rectangle, which is really a form. And that was tough, but it works well now. With these buttons here, I decided that the sound player is just going to be a static member. Well, I don't think it can be considered a member if it's static, but a static variable. And basically, it can't, even if they're on, like, if they're their own instances, you still are limited to how fast you can play sounds with the sound player. You have a slight hang time with your sounds if you try to play them too fast next to each other. So I was like, I'm just gonna have one sound player and use that to play the sounds, and it's pretty well. It's pretty safe. I have no problems with it. So I'm looking for a name, like a cool name for the application, but don't really know what I should name it. If you have any suggestions, let me know. I kind of wanted to name it something like Sharp Capture or something related to the language it was written in, because I want it to be more of eventually be a popular open source program, but there's nothing really original for me to use regarding C# and screenshot application related words. But if you have an idea, it could be anything, but just let me know. Oh yeah, and I basically decided that I'm going to write a styled or design a styled form to apply to all forms, and I wanted to encompass certain things like the draggability of the form and whatnot. Let's go to the style form. So here's the style form. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm in this handler here, this override, I'm checking to see if the control is a panel or a label, and then I'm applying or subscribing to the mouse move, mouse up, mouse down events so that I can make them draggable as well, because you want the user to be able to drag when they try to drag on these labels here. And that applies itself to all forms, and it's pretty effective. It's not like efficient or anything because you're casting, but it keeps you from writing a lot of code, makes the forms more organized, and drawing a black border around a lot of stuff these days. Okay, here is the Unite Rex. What is it? This is a static function, and basically this is my own logic to combine rectangles. The union method of the rectangle class will actually combine them in a way that it's not point friendly. It's a bit different, so I had to write Unite Rex here, and it works nicely. And here's some stuff to see if you're pressing the control key. I don't have keyboard hooks yet, so I'm just using this. It's just a simple test to see the keyboard state. You only need to test the keyboard state when you actually click on a window. Nativity. Here is the nativity class. It has my imports here. So bring window to top. I need this so that I can bring the windows forth in a certain way so that the backdrop is just behind the windows that I'm capturing, but it's not behind everything. This is not, it was worked with, the backdrop works with mixed success. It was kind of sketchy, but I'll get it. The problem is that when you click on a window and you call bring window to top or set foreground, and it's already a foreground window, it seems to go back or something. It was kind of messed up. I think I had an option to use set foreground window or voice crack or bring window to top, and I think that bring window to top does the same thing as set foreground window, except it doesn't activate the window or give it focus, whatever you want to say it, however you want to say it. And I'm using enum desktop windows to get the window info, the information about windows, and yeah, that just gets me their handles. It doesn't, yeah, it gets me handles, and basically I can only get top level visible handles. Actually, I get top level handles, and then I filter the visible ones out. If you didn't filter the visible ones, then you would get windows everywhere for some reason. And get window rect. Don't know, am I still using this? Yeah. There are other methods, other native methods that you can use that will get the window rect, but they'll get tons of information about the window as well. You can get like stuff about their borders and how they behave. I'm going to use something like that later on when I need it, in opposed to just this. Get foreground window. Here's the problem here, is where when I click on a window and I show the backdrop, I can't bring the window to front. I don't want to bring the window to front if it's a foreground window, because it gets sent backwards or it disappears. Is window, this method allows you to check to see if the handle, the pointer to a window handle, is actually a handle that points to a valid window and the window exists. Doesn't necessarily have to be visible. I'm not sure if I'm still using this. No, don't need that. That was for when I was sorting the windows by by their Z position or whatever. Window info, I was playing around with that. Not sure if I still need it. No. So this method, get window placement, is an example of a method that you can get the position of a window as well as other stuff about the window. I'm using this because I need to retrieve information about whether or not the window is maximized or minimized. Because if you try to capture a window maximized, you're going to capture outside the bounds of the screen. You're going to capture borders as well as a bit of this bottom taskbar here. So I'm using this. I'm going to see exactly where it's used. So I have a bool property in window info to get whether or not a window is maximized. I'm eventually going to have a second button, or a next button, not next button, just another button somewhere that will allow you to open up a fancy custom drop-down menu and select from some less used features in the application, like the ability to capture controls with the outliner and stuff like that. I'm probably going to implement capturing the client area of a window directly in the window capture here. But I don't think I'm going to do child controls with the window capture like Fastone does. See if you do Fastone. You can do child. You can capture child controls directly with the thing there, and it's going to be hard for me to maintain a decent performance doing this the way I have it set up. I don't think I would be able to do this by myself in a way that it's not going to completely trip out the application. But it is definitely desirable. I may do it later on, but for now it's going to be probably going to try to do it separately. So this program has been in development for 6 days, but it consists of a lot of pre-written functionality, like all of window capture was pretty much written ahead of time. And mouse hook, I think I was using mouse hooks. Yeah, the mouse hook class was used in the window capture namespace, but I dragged it out here because I need to use it with the region capture as well. So it's going just globally available and not really pertinent to window capture. As well, some stuff in the GFX here: capture, full screen capture, region capture, all screens, and a lot of my nativity code here. So that's a bit about the articulation of this program. See you later.